Independent presidential candidate Robert F. Kennedy Jr. is the most favorably viewed candidate among the White House hopefuls, according to a new Harvard-Harris poll. He's at 47%, which is higher than Trump, who's just at 45%, DeSantis at 40%, Biden all the way down at 39%. Now, Kennedy recently blasted government-implemented censorship, speaking from his own experience. Here he is talking to the Trinity Broadcast Network. Let's watch.
Within 37 hours of President Biden taking the oath of office, the White House was ordering Google, ordering Twitter and Facebook to remove my accounts. They had to, in fact, internally invent a new category. So they have misinformation, disinformation. For me, they used a word called malinformation, and that means misinformation that is true, but is nonetheless inconvenient for the government, and the government wants to be taken down.
We've got a little more here from you from RFK Jr. Let's take a listen.
What the White House was telling Twitter and Facebook is, if you don't censor Kennedy, that we will take away your Section 230 immunity. When the government can silence its critic, it has license for any atrocity.
Yeah, that's a pretty significant threat.
Yeah, we've talked about it on the show a lot, but just for anyone tuning in for the first time or forgetting what Section 230 is, this is the very fundamental statute for social media companies that protects them from liability that the users engage in. So if I were to write a book and I said something defamatory about Breonna Joy Gray, you could sue me and you could sue my publisher, Penguin Random House, Simon & Schuster, whoever it is. If I write something...
Well done, Robbie. What a book.
My last book was Simon & Schuster, and I can't remember who published my first one. If I wrote something in Reason magazine that was libelous, you could sue Reason. If I said something defamatory on this show, because I'm an employee of The Hill, I think you could sue them as well. But you couldn't sue if you then posted that clip on YouTube. You could sue me, you could sue The Hill because I work for The Hill. You cannot sue YouTube.
Yeah.
The speech on the platform, unless it's the speech by like a comms person who works for the company, the speech is treated as your speech, not the platform speech. So that is fundamentally important, because if it didn't work like that, the whole way social media works would not be possible.
Blog,
they would have to, if they could get sued over everything, it would be insane.
Yeah.
So what a lot of politicians on both sides of the aisle have done is kind of use Section 230, so it already exists, it's already out there, and the court, it's been robustly defended and protected by the courts. There was, at one point, there was a Supreme Court decision that stripped everything else out of the Communications Act that this was a part of, except Section 230. So what political figures like to do is say, well, if you're not going to adopt policies we like, then we're going to tweak Section 230, or we're going to take it away, and then how will you like them apples? Yeah. And everyone from Biden, Elizabeth Warren, Amy Klobuchar, Trump, Ted Cruz, Josh Hawley, all of them who have various conflicting grievances, right? Because the Democrats, broadly speaking, want social media companies to take down more content, and Republicans want social media companies to take down less content. So the companies, they're between a rock and a hard place. They just cannot satisfy both of these demands, even if they wanted to. But the cudgel, the threat, is doing something to Section 230.
Yeah, I think he's completely right to continue calling that out. I did want to ask you about these poll numbers, though. Let it not go unnoticed that Joe Biden's poll numbers are worse than Ron DeSantis's poll numbers. And how many news stories have you been treated to about how unlikable Ron DeSantis is? Ron DeSantis doesn't know how to smile. Ron DeSantis wears 3-inch heels. Ron DeSantis can't get off the woke stuff, and that's poisoning his campaign. Ron DeSantis, Ron DeSantis, Ron DeSantis. And Joe Biden, who's supposed to be the likable mensch of this group, the ice cream loving, dog loving grandpa to America, has worse favorability ratings than DeSantis?
Yeah, it's not good. And DeSantis theoretically has room to improve, because it is, he's not likely to become the nominee, but if he was to become the nominee, he would start getting more media coverage and he would become, better known to American audience. That could hurt his favorability numbers, but what I'm saying is there's still a mystery zone, because frankly, we're still at the point in this campaign where we're paying attention to it because it's our jobs, and you, the informed viewer, are paying attention to it. But there are a lot of people who are busy and are, they tune into politics when the election season heats up, and we're actually not there yet. And they don't know everybody in the race. They know Joe Biden and they know Donald Trump, because those are household names. Everybody knows who they are.
Sure.
There are some of the other candidates are still could be question marks. So there's room to improve. But what Biden is a pretty well-known figure at this point.
Yep.
So who's out there who theoretically doesn't have an opinion on him yet and is willing to become favorably disposed?
Much more baked in. And then, of course, the headline story here, RFK Jr.'s favorability being so high, despite being either blacked out of the press, or having nonstop stories about how he's a scary anti-vaxxer whose family doesn't even love him and are writing op-eds disavowing him. Yada yada yada.
He got one of the most stridently critical news cycles in recent memory. The whole that it was anti-Asian or anti-Semitic comments about the.
He's gone through an anti-Semitism cycle. He's gone through an anti-vax cycle. He's gone through you abandoned the Democratic Party. I knew you were secretly a Republican cycle, and to still have those kind of favorability numbers, it really does raise some interesting questions about how people are getting their news and whether or not the kind of corporate machine is as effective in poisoning the public against various candidates as it used to be. And also, I think raises some interesting questions about commonly accepted belief about the practice of how politicians should carry themselves. One might have said he needs to disavow his anti-vax, whatever you want to characterize them. I don't mean to mischaracterize them, but disavow his beliefs about the COVID vaccine before he runs to become more mainstream. People criticized Nina Turner for her calling Biden half a bowl of SHIT comments and said that really hurt her in her race in Ohio. I'm increasingly of the mind that sometimes doubling down on the thing that would galvanize a part of the electorate that's become disaffected, setting yourself out from the norm, demonstrating that you're willing to say things that the mainstream, the establishment isn't going to like, demonstrates that you're willing to fight and stick to your convictions. And that's exactly what's drawing people to folks like not just RFK Jr., but Vivek Ramaswamy. And folks who get a little pushback and then back down, you get the worst of both worlds, because you're still going to be dogged by those comments that you made. Plus, the people who actually like those comments are going to resent you for not standing by your truth.
Yeah. No, absolutely. And it's interesting, we continue to see RFK Jr. Theoretically having a big impact on this three-way race. He's polling at a level that independent third-party candidates rarely cross the threshold past the 20% mark. The last time that happened was, in fact, Ross Perot, who did have a big splash in that election. So it remains to be seen, but the fact that he has that favorability rating so high will certainly be an asset to him as he continues to make his case.
Yeah, absolutely. And it is worth noting, I got to say, that as much as Dean Phillips is getting play, he's being mentioned repeatedly as the candidate, the only candidate that's running against Joe Biden in the Democratic primary. Marianne Williamson continues to be the second highest ranked person in the Democratic primary with 12%, according to a 2024 National Democratic Party poll that came out a few days ago. Dean Phillips was at 4%. And that poll, I saw Marianne Williamson was trending today, perhaps in part because she's been tweeting frustration about how news reports keep erasing her from the coverage, characterizing Dean Phillips as the only candidate. When someone corrected a pundit who had said that about Marianne Williamson, the person who said it laughed and said, "Get serious, be serious," saying, no, it's not just Dean Phillips, it's Marianne Williamson and other people. The response was, "Get serious." And despite all of that, still hanging in as the number 2 person in the Democratic race. So there's still a lot of time left in the schedule, as Joe Biden keeps saying, perhaps desperately, we've got a whole year left. Don't look at my favorabilities. Don't look at my numbers. Don't look at the polling in Michigan. I've got a whole year left. That is also true for some of these up-and-comers, including RFK Jr., Cornel West, Jill Stein, Marianne Williamson, whoever it is, who are trying to make a name for themselves.
Yeah, maybe Joe Biden needs to get serious. Let's actually be reelected. That does it for us for today. Tomorrow on Rising, we have Dr. Jeffrey Sachs joining us to talk about Ukraine, Nord Stream, and some other subjects. You won't want to miss it.
Be sure to like, share, and subscribe so you never miss any content. And for those of you who like to listen while you're on the go, we're now available anywhere you listen to podcasts.
Fare thee well.
Take care.